In this episode of Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks, we'll have aliens, tigers, snapdragons, scalpers, giveaways, and more. Next. Nice. How you doing there? Welcome back to yet another episode of Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks. We're all kinds of discombobulated. Been a busy freaking day. Woke up, hit the ground running, and never stopped today. Still going, but good to be with you as always. Thanks for joining us. Dave Altavilla here, along with compatriots Marco Chiappetta and Chris Getting. How you doing, Chris? How you doing, Marco? Hey. How's life? How's life in the big city?
It's going okay. Can't really complain. Things are whizzing by as we crank through a big pile of work. But, that's all good. I'd rather be busy than too slow.
There you go. Absolutely. Yeah, we've been, this morning, just the news was bubbling. So we've got a few things to talk about in the news, but lots of product still coming through the door here for the Q4 holiday season. Chris, are you getting any Yuletide or close to seasonal chores done? Whatever.
We're trying, actually. We've got some decorations up for the fall. We're not approaching Christmas yet. But the weird thing about being in lockdown for so long is actually looking forward to the holidays for once, instead of being like, oh no, it's the holidays again. So, I guess there's a little more holiday cheer this year. Maybe.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, we're always cheery around these parts, and because we're looking at tech left and right, and boy, it is just screaming. Marco, what do you get your hands in lately? I know you've been messing around with a lot of stuff. You just got done, putting out all the energy on the RTX 30 series, but what's live in your labs these days?
So I'm actually done with testing, and I've been done for a while. It just happened to arrive right before all the GeForce stuff hit, so I had to shift gears. Unfortunately, I feel bad that I delayed these for the companies that are involved, but it is what it is. I have an absolutely gorgeous, really nice Lenovo Ryzen powered Slim 7 notebook with it's an Ultrabook class machine with an 8-core Ryzen processor in it, and I also have an Asus Zephyrus G15, I believe is the model. This was if you remember, we reviewed the Asus Zephyrus G14 that was powered by AMD. The G15 is obviously slightly bigger, but this one's powered by Intel, and instead of having an RTX GPU, it has a GTX 1660. In addition to being Intel powered and being more affordable. So it's sort of a nice contrast to the Zephyrus G14 to say, hey, look, you can get something a little bigger with a different GPU, but still, plenty fast in most games. And, it ends up being cheaper. So I got to get that review out the door as well.
Get busy.
I'm trying.
For the weary.
And we got all the AMD stuff tomorrow, too. So this is nonstop.
Yeah, we're all getting ready for the AMD announcement tomorrow, announcements this month. Should be exciting. Stay tuned to Hot Hardware for that. I've got stuff coming in left and right. There's all kinds of handsets flying through the door. We even have something cool from the folks at Alienware with a 3090 in it. I'm going to leave it at that. It's not under embargo, but it is going to be a benchmarking beast that Chris is going to roll up his sleeves and get dirty with.
Well, they tell us it'll be a benchmarking beast. We'll see if it holds true. 3090, you never really know, right?
Yeah. It will be.
Yep. And all kinds of good stuff. Let's kick, actually, before we dig into the reviews, let's kick into the headlines real quick that came through today. Talk about something sort of right out of the gate, and then we'll get to reviews. Does that sound like a plan, guys?
Sure.
Why not mix it up a little bit? So, we had two things that crossed the wire, and we'll handle them in sort of chronological order that they hit this morning that, dropped out of bed, cup of coffee, and then all of a sudden it was like, bang, things were blowing up. Qualcomm to launch its own premium Snapdragon branded phones that will raise the bar. And I'll drop this link in the chat. I don't know if you can. Yeah, there you go, Chris. You got that dialed up. This is an interesting thing. So we picked up on a tip from Digitimes that came through that they were talking about a partnership between Qualcomm and Asus for Qualcomm-branded phones. And The idea there was that Qualcomm was going to set the bar and define its own brand of Snapdragon phones that sort of show how it's done for the OEMs, much like Microsoft does or tries to do at least for the Surface, right? For the Surface series of products. So set the standard. This is what premium flagship Android phones should do. Actually, can't really get into it too much, but we have some additional information that says that there's more than just smoke here. There's probably fire. And that's a good thing. Timing is, looking like early next year, 2021, think MWC is a logical time frame. But what's exciting here is that if you think about, what Qualcomm does, and Marco, chime in. I know you've been behind the doors at Qualcomm headquarters as well. What Qualcomm does for all of their OEM system partners is they set reference designs. They do everything from 5G and 4G antenna tuning to audio. They have this sound chamber. They have all kinds of stuff, and certainly on the camera mojo as well. So theoretically, what you could see here is really just sort of the pinnacle of Android phones. I would think they'd probably leave the skin out and just go pure stock Android. It's all speculation at this point. Nothing's been formally announced, but we've had some discussions that say this makes sense. There's some logical strategy here. What are your thoughts on this, Marco? And Chris, I'd like to hear your opinion on this too.
So I love the idea that Qualcomm is likely doing this, right? So as you mentioned, Microsoft, when it originally launched the Surface devices, now I personally feel Microsoft's sort of fallen off a little bit, but when they originally launched the Surface, it was, in response to a market that was, cheaping out on basically everything in the PC space. And Microsoft said, you know what, screw that. We're going to show you how to do it right. And here we are a few years later, and there's tons of premium devices. They pushed the industry and their partners to make something better. And Qualcomm seems to think, or Qualcomm knows, because they're the ones supplying all the chips, that lots of the phone manufacturers nowadays, they're cheaping out here and there, right? There's beautiful devices. I'm not saying everybody, like this isn't sweeping across every device, obviously. But when you're building a ultra premium phone, if you can save $1 on this regulator here or $2 on this device there, yeah, you end up with more profits, but you might end up with a phone that's maybe not quite as power efficient or runs a little hotter than it should, or it's not quite the perfect experience that Qualcomm expects across the board. So Qualcomm is saying, screw it, we're going to show you how to do it right. And we're going to partner with a company that arguably has the leading edge gaming device on the market now in the ROG Phone 3. And we're going to show everybody else how to do it right. So I think that's great. It might annoy some of their partners because now you're competing with your supplier. But if it pushes the industry forward like Microsoft did, I am 100% all for it. And I hope this comes to fruition.
Yeah.
Up your game. And yeah, and I think what could be a reality here is that you get all the bells and whistles in your flagship Android handset. You are not compromising for anything. You are getting wireless charging. You're getting, IP68. You're getting a triple or quad camera array with wide angle and macro, and basically everything that you would think, like Microsoft did with Surface or tries to do with Surface, Qualcomm will try to enable the full complement of capabilities in this type of handset. And it's fascinating to think about. Chris, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, so of course I have to think of like the Google Nexus program, now known as Pixels, that really started as showing OEMs what to do with the software of Android. If you just basically leave it alone, let it run stock and let it run really nice, throw in some camera tricks here and there, like we saw really pioneering with the night mode and this and that. So this is coming at it from the hardware side of things, because even with the Pixel phones, as great as they are, I use a Pixel phone here still. The hardware has always kind of still been lacking. It's not up to, say, Samsung's hardware chops level. definitely good though. So I think it's very interesting to see yet another showcase phone. I don't think the OEMs should really be worried about Qualcomm taking any like real market share by storm unless they're really showing the OEMs just how terrible they've been, which I don't think the OEMs have been that bad. But as we look to the Nexus phones that, had their niche market, the Pixel phones got a little more popular, but still aren't dominating the market by any stretch. See the same thing with the Surface. There's people who really like the Surface, but it never, it didn't knock off Dell or Lenovo or HP or any of the other big names. So I think it's very valuable to have these showcase devices from people like Qualcomm or Google or Microsoft that are trying to raise the bar, but I don't think they're going to necessarily upset the market. I think they'll maybe raise the market.
Yeah. I would agree with you, and it'll be fun to watch. I applaud Qualcomm, and they won't admit it right now, but I applaud them for that effort if that's going on. And it's certainly we're getting lots of vibrations that say it is. And I think what's exciting there for a lot of folks, Pixel phones are popular, and Mote phones too, actually, because they're pure Android with top-notch features, great camera performance, and all that good stuff. What would be exciting is pure Android phone with everything you can throw at it. So, Samsung Galaxy, S20 Ultra class feature set with bone stock, highly tuned Android and everything else tuned by Qualcomm. I'm excited. I'd be all over that. So
almost harkens back to the Google Play Edition days where we did see that with the Samsung devices running stock Android like the Nexuses.
Yeah.
So over and above that, though, one thing that Qualcomm's been championing that I don't think a lot of the device manufacturers have really fully taken to heart are, well, two things. One is, fully updatable drivers on the graphics side, and also Qualcomm talks about sustained performance a lot, right? So you can get a top-end Qualcomm Snapdragon platform to achieve the peak clock speeds that Qualcomm advertises, but sustaining that performance for longer periods is really where you get the best performance, and that's something Qualcomm's been talking about a lot. So if their device ends up being, the most updatable or is always on the leading edge in terms of drivers and software, plus it has the best sustained performance, like that's a big deal in terms of the experience. So yeah, it could be all good stuff. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Huge company, have huge resources in terms of software engineering to bring to bear. They could seriously knock it out of the park. So I'm excited. Bring it. All right, let's move on to something a little bit heavier tone, and then we'll get into the reviews, and we'll sort of get into the the PC side of the house here with this one. MSI, as we termed this headline, and we were very direct about it because, in our opinion, there's no two ways about it. MSI caught red-handed scalping GeForce RTX 3080, 3090 cards on eBay at exorbitant prices. And boy, talk about a bad look. Really, I try not to judge, right? That's what you learn in life. You've been on this rock long enough. You try not to judge. You just take things for what it is. But man, even on face value, it just looks bad. And the other wrinkle here is that allegedly, well, not allegedly, it is an MSI subsidiary, that MSI did not have control of their pricing, and more concerningly, didn't have control of their inventory. So this subsidiary that was scalping them on eBay wasn't supposed to have access to inventory like MSI did. And MSI didn't set their pricing, MSI corporate. Well, I'm sorry, they're a subsidiary. They're a wholly owned subsidiary, by the way. You can't wiggle out of that. They came forward, the company came forward with a statement, said they will make good, provide full refunds and or partial refunds to bring it to market pricing, I assume. I'm not reading the statement. Instructed to contact individual customers who purchase these GPUs after two options: return the product for a full refund or a partial refund of the amount paid over MSI's MSRP. Now, these are OEM partner cards. So, they stepped right up and, said, here's our corrective action. But how the heck do you let this happen, Marco?
Agreed. That's it. The demand was crazy. MSI got some additional cards in and said, hey, you know what? Let's slip a few over to this partner, and we'll make a massive profit. We actually have someone in the chat that bought from Starlit and got their partial refund, which is kind of crazy. Wow. So I mean, MSI's statement was that it was, essentially accidental, that this Starlit Partners, that's a wholly owned subsidiary, wasn't supposed to be able to sell new stock. Therefore, refurbs or open box or returns that are resellable. But somehow they got their hands on new stock and sold it. Kind of a lame excuse. If you believe them, great. I guess you got to take it at face value, but it just seems kind of shady that all the other sales got pulled. So yeah, it is what it is. When you're profit driven and you have to make every penny in a really tough market right now, everything's kind of screwy with what's going on with COVID and the elections and everything around the world. You do it. Some companies make some decisions that they're not happy about or they shouldn't have, and this is the kind of stuff that happens.
Yeah, NVIDIA got a bad rap for this launch for the supply demand issue. We had Tony Tomasi from NVIDIA on the stream last cast, who said, quote unquote, we produced more Ampere for this launch than we did Turing for its launch. They produced more. So I don't know how you, find fault there. People have all kinds of, conspiracy theories that they're creating, false supply demand dynamics to amp pricing and to amp the hype. I think that's a bunch of hooey. I think they're probably trying to ship anything that isn't nailed down. And yeah, I think certainly logistically, the COVID situation doesn't help either. And we've had multiple OEMs across multiple product segments, laptops, PC component guys, all over the ecosystem report, this COVID restriction is real. People going into offices and stuff like that aren't happening, into warehouses aren't happening as much as they should be. And supply is restricted in general. Now, I'm not saying that that's NVIDIA's issue here or that's their, an excuse. But yeah, so a tough situation at best already for NVIDIA. And now you got,
I think we lost Dave here.
We lost Dave. So yeah, so where he, we kind of know where he was going. We know MSI kind of shouldn't have done this, got caught red-handed. It is what it is. They're going to try and correct it. Tim in the chat is saying, when he got his message from them, they called it an error in price on eBay. Whatever, it is what it is. He he got his refund. Hopefully everyone else does, and they don't do this moving forward. Another comment that EVGA is handling the situation well. I agree with that. Watching EVGA Jacob Freeman on Twitter, he would literally tweet when new stock was about to come into the EVGA store, and then as soon as it was sold out, he would tweet again and say, "Okay, it's gone."
Yeah, so we'll see. Jacob does a great job with his role at EVGA.
Agreed. Definitely does a great job. So not sure. I have my IM client open. Hopefully Dave shoots us a note and we figure out what's happened, if he even knows that he dropped off yet. So he lost power, so it's coming back up. We'll see what happens. But yeah, with the demand that was happening here with Ampere and with how quickly cards sold out, you've been around long enough, you can expect stuff like this is going to happen somewhere. So it is what it is.
Yep. So, we'll see if we can get Dave back. But in the meantime, do you want to move on?
Yeah. So one of the big articles we posted this week, I'll move on now. We got to review the latest iteration of Alienware's M15, the Alienware M15 R3. So this is actually a really cool machine. If you look at it from the outside, aesthetically, it essentially looks just like the previous gen. Looks like last year's model, but there are some significant changes that made this machine not only perform better, but actually look a little better long term. So the particular configuration we looked at, so our man Paul reviewed this machine. I believe he reviewed last year's too, but this particular setup that we had was based on a Core i7-10750H, so 6-core Comet Lake H processor with a GeForce RTX 2070 inside, and dual 512 gigs SSDs in RAID. So not quite the killer all-out top-of-the-line nutso model with 2080 and bigger SSDs, but still nice high-end config. The way we tested it, configuration was a little over $2,100. So with that out of the way, though, what makes this machine different over and above just the updated hardware inside is Dell Alienware made some really cool changes to the cooling, to the power delivery, and to the finish on the outside. So just quickly on the outside, the machine is coated with a new coating that resists fingerprints and smudges much better than the previous gen. So long term, hopefully it looks better and holds up better to dirt, grime, fingerprints, all that other goo.
I hate cleaning off fingerprints off of everything. Drives me crazy.
Know. Especially when you go to take pictures and you look at the pictures up close and you realize there's thumbprints everywhere. But even better, over and above that, so the cooling system in this machine, not only was it beefed up, but I believe it was 39% more copper, but the fans themselves have 25% more blades, which increased airflow by about 30%, if I remember correctly. And the power phases inside the machine went from 8 to 12, so more capable and more efficient power delivery. And that in turn also helps bring internal temperatures down. So all told, compared to other machines with similar hardware, similar GPU, and I think all but one test, this ends up being, the fastest gaming notebook with a 2070 that we had tested. And full bore, hammering on the CPU and GPU with a meter held, a few inches above the keyboard. I'm going to say only 50 dB. That's you can hear that. That's not quiet,
right?
But it's quieter than many other high-end gaming notebooks. So not this big, obtrusive, loud, nutty noise coming out of what's a really powerful notebook. So overall, pretty nice machine, man.
Yeah, it's
what was a nutty noise? The lightning crack outside the window that killed my power.
Yikes! Glad you're back.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping I don't trash anything trying to power through the cast here, because there's some serious weather kicking up here in New England. So apologies for going dark there.
And I'm sure it's headed my way.
Yeah. No, the Alienware M15 R3, huh? Yeah, cool looking machine. I really like that lunar light design. Flip side, probably one of the worst battery life scores we've ever recorded for a laptop, even just looping video. What are your thoughts there? Down the curve quite a ways. Certainly when you talk about a gaming laptop, you're not concerned as much with battery life. You expect that. But even for light duty stuff, not the best in terms of battery life. It's all about the performance and the cooling solution on board, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it was towards the bottom of the stack in terms of battery life. But again, keep in mind, 6-core processor, 4K OLED display.
Yeah, 4K OLED.
Dual drives, big honking machine. So yes, battery life is not great like most other gaming notebooks. But, it's like right behind the previous gen ROG Zephyrus, which had 1080p, the MSI GE62, which again was a 1080p display, nowhere near as fast. And it was better than like the HP Omen 17 and an Origin, a boutique machine from Origin that we looked at, I think, last year. But yeah, you're not going to get a lot of time away from the power outlet when you have this much horsepower on the go. And gaming, the PC Mark gaming test, I think it got something like 58 minutes, so less than an hour. But again, you're not going to game on battery if you're a serious gamer, because performance goes way down. It gets, frame rates get unpredictable. You're going to want to plug in to get the best experience anyway. So if battery life is, a main concern for you on a notebook, obviously this is not for you. I doubt you'd be looking at a machine like this if battery life was important. But if you're a gamer and you want a really powerful gaming machine, that also has some cool features, like you can get the proprietary dock for more powerful graphics. It has really smart placement of ports around basically all 3 sides except for the front. So lots of good stuff. Just, purpose built for gamers. Don't expect great battery life. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. 15 or 15.6 inch 4K OLED display. That's a big honking 4K panel. So there you go. That's pretty much why. You could probably get better power. Certainly 1080p, but IPS. It's a beautiful display. But it's going to eat power. Chris, this your jam or
well, I'm noticing that the RAM is not upgradable. So in a gaming notebook, do you think that's a concern? Because games now, it's probably fine. I mean, you can kit it out with 32 gigs of RAM and probably be good for the life of the notebook. But if you're looking down at the lighter configs as like an entry piece, thinking, okay, maybe I can add RAM later.
Yeah.
In a laptop of this size, I would expect there to be RAM slots.
I was surprised with that. I thought there was a version of it that had a single RAM slot, and then I think it was like 8 or whatever gig was soldered down to the board, but they had a single RAM slot where they would drop in another 8 gig, or you can keep going from there. But I guess not in this machine. So just one of those things to consider if you're going to step up for it. It's certainly a well built, super powerful, great looking machine. But choose your config wisely.
Yes.
Yeah. So on the negative side, you obviously definitely have to spring for as much as you can afford at the time of purchase. But on the plus side, in I don't know what the 30 years that I've been messing with computers, I never had a RAM stick die in a notebook. So once you kit it out, it's probably going to be okay.
Yep. All right. So you guys went on to Alienware. You guys want to hit EK next, or let's talk Tiger Lake, or what do you want to
do? Do EK, because we have Wesley Lewis in the chat saying, hey, give me that M15 R3. We can't give you that because that's going back to Alienware, but the machine Chris is going to talk about right now is up for grabs.
Yeah. So, this is the EK Fluid Gaming 270 Conquest. And let me get all the way out of the way so it'll actually focus on it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So I'll switch over here. So this is an all-AMD system, courtesy of the folks at EK, but it's not a wholly custom-built system. These are their new pre-built line of desktops. And we've lost Dave again. Rest in pieces.
That's all
right. This one is configured with a Ryzen 7 3800X as well as a Radeon RX 5700 XT. So it's a very nice config, especially if you're into the 1080p, 1440p range of gaming. You can get really nice frame rates on pretty much all games, but even at 4K, as I've been using it, it still seems to hold above 60 FPS reasonably in most games. You got to dial down a couple settings, but it still looks absolutely beautiful. But the best part of the system is its liquid cooling setup. It's using all EK parts, but it just looks fantastic. I'm going to play a little glamour roll here. So all the tubing in the system is straight lined across, all parallel lines into what is the front panel there that you're seeing now, that acts as a reservoir, has a pump at the bottom, and then also kind of channels the liquid up towards the top to the 360 millimeter radiator at the top. So the liquid cooling setup with these fluid gaming systems is the same no matter the config you choose. So they have the Conquest line that's all AMD like this one is, and then there's also the Vanquish line that gives you an NVIDIA GPU, still keeping with the Ryzen processors. But they all have this awesome liquid cooling setup, so it's going to perform well no matter the configuration you choose. But the really nice thing is that when you get into this custom hardline cooling, it's usually very expensive. I mean, I've heard people spending hundreds, if not over $1,000 just on the liquid cooling, fixtures for their system. And really, when you compare this system to a system you'd build off the shelf yourself without, maybe you throw an all-in-one liquid cooler in there, but without all the hardline stuff, it's only a few $100 more, which is really impressive if this is what you want.
Yeah, that was a really smart move on their part. So as long as you're using the same motherboard, right? And you're using a single slot water block on the GPU, you get that hardline cooling, custom hardline cooling look, but they can crank these out much easier because there's no bending, nothing crazy going on at all. It's just straight tubes right to the reservoir. That was a really smart design move. So you get that boutique, seemingly all custom feel, but they can crank these out a little faster because they're not bending individual tubes and doing anything nutty. It's just straight shots. So yeah, this is a really cool rig. So, and just to build, go check out Chris's review if you really want to see all the glamour shots and see the video and see how the numbers and see how the machine performed. But if you hit our news page, I believe it's the top commented article right now, so you can't miss it. Yeah, like it's right at the top of the conversation section. We're giving that machine away. And all you have to do is, hit a couple social media pages, share a couple things out, maybe sign up for our newsletter, and you're automatically entered. We're using Gleam. And, once the contest is over, I think we're running for like another week. I have to go double check.
10 days.
Nine more days left. 9 more days left. We'll let Gleam do its thing, and bang, you got a shot to win. So absolutely hit the page and go get in on that. I think we have Dave back. Dave, are you back? No.
Hey, we had him.
This is crazy stuff going on.
Oh, God.
Oh, is he
we
back?
have his voice.
Wait, am I back?
Maybe.
There he is.
Guess who's back? Back again.
Brutal. The interwebs are not being kind because of Mother Nature. But yeah, man, I was thinking, that's what I was thinking. The first thing that occurred to me with that rig is, I love the straight pipes. I mean, it's cool to see all these beautiful labyrinths of bent pipes and water distribution blocks and all this stuff. Certainly the guys at Main Gear make some amazing rigs. The flip side of that is, it adds cost. Sometimes it's a serviceability issue, for a novice end user. This is the kind of thing that, it's efficient from a cost standpoint because of all that straight piping, and a user can probably get in there much easier, drain it, swap a GPU out, and pull in an EK, cooling block for the GPU, hook it back up that much easier. So
I don't think I mentioned it in the review, but EK does give you the little tubing you need to drain the system, and extra containers and stuff to refill it and all of that. But yeah, because it's straight piped and because it's all off the shelf EK hardware, when it does come time to upgrade, usually with these boutique systems, you're going, I don't stand a chance of upgrading that. But with this one, I mean, as long as you're comfortable doing some level of work to swap the GPU shroud for a new water block and, maybe resize the piping to get it to fit just right, I think it's actually doable for a semi-technical person to upgrade this system. I mean, it's not going to be as easy as plug and play with an air-cooled build, but I don't think it's going to require a huge, crazy amount of work to accomplish. So that's always something very nice to keep in mind.
Yeah, run down the system specs on the giveaway build. Ryzen 7 3800X 8-core CPU, 16 threads, 16 gigs of dual-channel Crucial Ballistics DDR4 3200, Asus Prime X570 Pro motherboard, Radeon RX 5700 XT Anniversary Edition GPU, and a 500 gig Samsung 970 Evo drive. So, fast NVMe SSD, 650 watt gold power supply. Chris, I don't know if we can work this into the giveaway. This isn't something as an option in the giveaway, but can we get you to upgrade your system to Big Navi and show that process?
I'm not going to say no if we can work that out and get the parts we need. That's something I would be very eager to try, because I've never done hardline liquid cooling myself. So dip my toes into it with this system. Why not?
There you go. Yeah, no, and it all depends on timing. We'll see when Big Navi arrives for, in our hands. We know when it's going to be talked about, but in our hands. So stay tuned. And yeah, you could win. 9 days left in the giveaway, as Marco noted. It's happening now. I dropped the link in the chat. Hit it. Get in it to win it. There you go.
Oh, and it is U.S. North America only.
It's U.S.
It's
only.
just U.S. Yeah,
U.S. only, and that's just shipping and tariffs and duty and export and laws and that they wanted to keep simple. So that's what we did. U.S. readers and viewers only on this one, but we always have another giveaway coming, and we do global giveaways as well. All right, want to finish up on Tiger Lake from Asus?
Sure.
And hopefully I won't choke out here with the with the thunderstorm going on. My goodness, this is a first, I think, to have a live electrical storm. So yeah, and we've been taking a look at all things from desktop to laptop, and Asus came through with the first Tiger Lake powered Intel Tiger Lake powered ZenBook, the ZenBook Flip S UX371 Tiger Lake Byte with OLED pop. What a combo that is, by the way. This is a 13.3-inch display format machine. So 13.3-inch OLED 4K display. Intel Core i7-1165 G7, 4-core, 8-thread CPU, turbos up to 4.7 gigahertz, 16 gigs of 4266 RAM, so blistering fast RAM, and a 1 terabyte NVMe solid state drive, PCI Express 3, though Tiger Lake does support PCIe 4, and Intel Iris Xe graphics. Good stuff, great config, 2.5-pound machine with Tiger Lake's 15-watt TDP out of the, sort of default out of the box, but you can hit performance mode where it kicks up to that 28-watt thermal envelope as well. Impressive benchmark numbers for sure. Really nice build. Love the keyboard on this thing. Trackpad's cool too. You can carve out, a numpad calculator on the trackpad as well with some LED lighting that's built in. Just a very innovative machine. 360-degree swing hinge, kind of like all the bells and whistles. And what's really cool is that you're talking about $14.99 as tested for us. So 4K OLED display, fast quad-core Tiger Lake processor, 1 terabyte SSD, 16 gigs of RAM for $14.99 for basically $1,500. That's a pretty aggressive price for such a dialed config. Usually when you're talking 4K OLED in a notebook, you're already way up into that echelon, never mind a 1 terabyte SSD and 16 gigs of RAM. Soldered down. It's a thin and light, 2.5-pound, 2.65-pound machine. So
I'm not going to knock it in a thin and light.
No, you can't. It's a space thing. Thoughts, Marco, and the performance was, it's the fastest, quad core machine we've tested, notebook we've tested, and it hangs with 6-core solutions out there from the previous gen, and then competitive with AMD in certain spots, even certainly in gaming, actually faster than integrated AMD Radeon graphics on an 8-core chip. So lots of nuance in the benchmark results, but what were your thoughts?
So there's two things kind of that struck me with this article. First, well, just speaking about Asus specifically, many moons ago, one of my older machines was one of the early Asus ZenBooks. So in terms of the build quality and look, I love how this machine looks. I love that copper edge. I like what they do. The way the numpad looks when you kind of light it up inside inside the touchpad looks kind of funky, but whatever, I won't hold it against them. But what I think was more interesting looking at the numbers was versus the Tiger Lake Whitebook that you tested, this wasn't quite as fast basically across the board. So for a full retail, thinner, lighter, retail ready Ultrabook with Tiger Lake, that vehicle that we got for early testing was offering a little bit more performance. That said, if you're looking for the best all-around experience in an Ultrabook right now in terms of responsiveness and performance, this is probably it if this form factor works for you. The only caveat was, we were expecting these, crazy awesome battery life from Tiger Lake, Now, this machine did extremely well, right? You can't put down the battery life. Let me just jump to the number because I'm not remembering off the top of my head. Give me just 1 second here.
Yeah, and it's a 4K OLED panel too, by the way.
Yeah, so you're exactly. So like this is another machine with a really, high res, bright, beautiful panel, with, a nice hardware complement. So it ended up in the upper quadrant, of testing. It ended up at 445 minutes in our test, which was, better than lots of much slower 1080p notebooks, but couldn't quite catch, like, the killer machine was the Dell XPS 13 from 2020, did 551 minutes. So if you're looking
which was 1080p, by the way.
Exactly. So, right. And actually all of the machines ahead of it were 1080p. So this Asus machine with a beautiful 4K OLED panel, it's awesome battery life, but it, leading up to Tiger Lake's launch, everyone was expecting this insane battery life. It's not insane. It's extremely good, but it's not off the charts good like, some people may have expected.
We should qualify that too, because, again, we don't have a 1080p Tiger Lake laptop, retail Tiger Lake laptop in possession right now. The first Tiger Lake retail laptop we got has this 4K display, and there's a lot to a 4K OLED display in terms of power consumption that sways the numbers when you're talking battery life, when you're talking about a traditional battery life test. So, or I should say the way we test battery life. So it's a low end CPU workload that we put on there. We're talking about video loop, right? So looping HD video. So CPU's just, idling along, not idling along,
all but chilling.
Super low utilization, 5%, something like that. And so the display is a much bigger factor in that battery life. I'm interested to find out what the first 1080p, nicely equipped machine like this, the 1080p version of this would be the perfect test vehicle to say, okay, here's what Tiger Lake can really do when optimized for battery life. 4K OLED display is just not going to give that to you. But hey, look at you, like you said, Marco, it's up there in the top quadrant, the top 25%, top 20% of all laptops we've tested, and everything above it's 1080p. So it's impressive. I just wonder what that 1080p looks like. And then, yeah, what's interesting is the performance dynamic. It's like so wide, like that 15 to 28 watt TDP, that it has such a range that you can fit into a thermal solution as thin and light as a 2.5 pound machine. Chris, any takeaways from you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at like when we flip between the standard and performance modes, that you're actually seeing a tangible pickup in performance in that performance mode. You don't always see that. You'll see those modes offered on a system and you get maybe 3 to 5%. Where, I mean, I feel like jumping up from 38.5 FPS at medium to 54 under performance mode, I mean, that's a reason to engage it that you might otherwise overlook. So I think that's a very nice thing to consider on it.
Tiger Lake is no joke. And
has legs.
Yeah, it has legs, and and it's going to be interesting to see how AMD responds. I think, Ryzen 4000 came in and started making an impact. Tiger Lake is a quick answer to that. And, especially with Iris Xe graphics, it's like, ooh, that's some potent stuff. So, we all know Zen 3 is around the corner. Usually it hits desktop first, and it takes a bit of time to get to a laptop incarnation. Well, at least if we look at previous generation AMD releases, we don't know what that looks like yet. But right now, I think for the Q4 holiday shopping season, Intel just gave, prospective notebook, Windows machine buyers something to be looking forward to, right?
Yeah, man. Beautiful machines, good stuff, good performance, basically an upgrade all around.
Yeah. I mean, like if you're on the bubble and you are waiting to, bite the bullet and get that next high-end laptop, might be wise to hang on just a little bit longer till a proliferation of Tiger Lake machines are in the market. We've got this first machine in from Asus. You can buy it now. There's more coming, guaranteed. And Dell came out and said XPS is getting it, and I think they should be coming any week now, probably in for review. It's my guess. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, man.
And with that, I think are we wrapped? Did we miss anything?
No, I think we got. I mean, we missed you when you dropped off, but other than that, we're good.
You're kind. You're kind. You were probably partying when I went. Oh, Dave left.
That's it.
No, good stuff. Good stuff as always.
So we have just a couple of quick comments.
Anything to finish up in the chat?
Yeah, so Nathan says Zen 3 around the corner tomorrow. Yes, the announcement's coming tomorrow. Probably going to hear a little something else that's juicy as well. So yes, that's happening tomorrow. And we have B Kareem asking, when are we going to see some better IGP than Vega in Ryzen laptops? That's happening. I don't think we'll hear about that tomorrow, but the next iteration of Ryzen Mobile will have a better IGP. You can bet the farm on that. How much better, we can't say for sure just yet, but it's going to be most likely based on Navi, and it should be a step forward.
RDNA 2, yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, no, we don't have confirmation there, but I think watch the coverage tomorrow at Hot Hardware for Zen 3. We expect some bold disclosures being made. We'll leave it at that. Can we say that? Yeah, we can say that.
Yeah, we can.
Because it's going to be exciting stuff. And with that, we'll call it a day. Find us at hothardware.com, where you can find us on the web, twitter.com/hothardware, youtube.com/hothardware vids. Hit thumbs up, subscribe. Facebook, we're there too. And get in it to win it. The EK Fluid Gaming giveaway is live now, 9 days. You could win a custom liquid-cooled killer gaming machine, all AMD build, from the folks at EK Fluid Gaming. Thanks so much to them, by the way, for putting that up. It's great to give back to the community. The delicious straight pipe cooling goodness. Right? Good stuff, man. And with that, we will bid you adieu, and thank you so much for stopping by.